Hi guys, John Simon, KefiTravel here. Reaching back now across the globe to inspire you with some more adventure type travel. Some of you know that I had a trip planned to base camp at Everest this year, and unfortunately we had to cancel that, but we are hoping to get it back on. So I thought the best way to get people excited is I've invited Rob from AdventureHero to join us, and that's who we're working with for this awesome trip to Everest Base Camp. So I thought, well, last time I talked to Rob, he was in Africa, I think, and then I thought he was in Nepal now, but he's actually around Salt Lake City. So it's hard to keep up with him. But Rob, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today, and welcome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, John. Glad you reached out. It'll be exciting to keep this top of mind. Lord knows I love talking about it.
Exactly. So listen, you're in Salt Lake City. How are things in your area right now with COVID-19 and situation?
Overall, we've been very fortunate here in Utah. We have cases, but we've been social distancing hard for 6 or 7
Good.
weeks. We've been very fortunate, especially compared to a lot of other places in the United States and
Yeah.
around the world. So just all of our staff, Salt Lake is the head of our U.S. operations, and so
Okay.
all of our staff are working from home. We're still staying in touch and working with guests, but doing it from our home offices instead.
Do you have many clients out on the road right now? You've managed to get them all back home safe and sound?
They were all able to get back home. We had a number of clients in Nepal when they started putting their social distancing requirements in place. We were able to
Yeah.
get them all back to Kathmandu and on their flights home.
Yeah.
Nepal moved very quickly once they decided to implement policies, and so it was a hectic few days to get everyone out, but very grateful to say everyone's home. So our
Yeah.
guests that still have upcoming trips, we're working with them to figure those out, but
Yeah.
everyone's home safe.
That's good. It's good to hear. And it's good to hear that your area is good. I mean, we're doing very well in New Brunswick, Canada, where I'm at. We've had no new cases now for almost 14 days, and we've had no deaths at all. So it's
Oh,
been very lucky here. There's actually starting to loosen some of the restrictions here now because we've been so successful at this stage. So
that's great to hear.
yeah. So let's talk a bit about AdventureHero for a minute before we talk specifically about Everest. So I know you guys have operations all over the world doing adventure type travel. Can you fill us in a bit about what you're about?
Yeah, we're an adventure travel company that really specializes in bucket list type trips, climbing Kilimanjaro, Everest Base
Yeah.
Camp, tours in the Galapagos Islands, things like that. And one of our focuses is we're a small company that's really passionate about it. So all of
Yeah.
our staff have done these trips. That's kind of how they rope you into the company, is they offer you exciting travel as part of it.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, we've chatted while I've been in Nepal and in Africa, and I think even while I was down in Chile and Argentina last year.
Yeah.
It's a company run by travel addicts that are all passionate about this type of adventure, and we lead trips all over South America, Tanzania, Nepal, Bhutan, just constantly looking for the next trip.
Yeah. And that's great because I mean I do have a number of clients, for example, some are looking at southern Chile and Patagonia and things like that. I'm having some discussions with clients right now about doing cruises around the Galapagos, small private cruises. And you mentioned Kilimanjaro. I've got some folks as well, some that did Kilimanjaro already, but some that are looking to do it as well. So I know we'll be having some conversations going forward as well for those customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, all great destinations.
Yeah.
Patagonia is some world-class trekking.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know one of my clients is looking for that trekking. I can't remember what it's called. Right down on the very southern point, there's some famous hiking, and then you do sort of what's called the Darwin Cruise, I believe, around the point.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
down in Ushuaia and the
Exactly.
Tierra del Fuego National Park down there.
Yeah, that's exactly the area. Yeah, we
Beautiful,
were looking at.
beautiful area. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
down there in December doing some hiking around there and southern Patagonia, and just magical place.
Excellent. Yeah, well, we definitely say offline. We'll talk some more about those over the coming year. That's for sure.
Yeah,
And that's great. So let's talk about Everest Base Camp, because that, as you said, it's a bucket list for a lot of people. And when I brought it up this year with sort of my client base, there was a lot of interest. But to be honest, there was some fear too, right, about doing a hike
hmm
like that. It's very different culture to start with, and it's very unknown. And of course, everyone sees has read the book or seen the movies and things like that. So could you, if you're comfortable, can you just walk us through the experience and what people should expect and things like that?
Yeah, so Everest Base Camp is a long trek, but not technical. So there's no ropes, harnesses, anything
Okay.
like that. You're just walking and hiking. We do it in 11 days, which is kind of the shortest period you can do it with a safe
Hmm.
acclimatization profile. You're
Okay.
gaining altitude quite a bit. You end up, right around 5,300, 5,350 meters above sea level at minimum just to get to base camp. So it's
Yeah.
really important to do that safely, but doing it on a safe acclimatization schedule is very easy. You're passing through these small communities full of tea houses where you'll stay.
Yeah.
And if you need more time to acclimatize, your guide can just adjust the itinerary. So maybe stopping a few hours early or adding a day to stay at a lower altitude. You build that acclimatization. So it's a very successful trek. We have a lot of people who've never done these types of big international trips. They've done some hiking at home that will come and do base camp with us and just have a fantastic time. It's
That's
always, but it's definitely doable for newer trekkers too.
Well, that's good to hear because I say obviously there's a lot of altitude fears that people have. I took a group down to Peru this last fall, and we did Machu Picchu, of course, but also Rainbow Mountains, which is 16,700 feet. And it was interesting and very enjoyable. And most of us were using some of the altitude medication, but we were being very careful in what we were doing. But it was, we had a woman on the trip who was 71 years old, and not a
Mhm.
big hiker, but she made both of them, because we took our
Yeah.
time and the guides worked well with her.
One of my favorite examples of kind of working with different guests with this altitude. My first season in Nepal, we worked with two different groups of guests, and we always tell people go slow, drink water, the
Yeah,
standard advice. All of our guides are trained and certified in wilderness first aid and acclimatization medicine,
excellent.
but some guests just they're going to hike at their own pace. So we
Yeah,
had two groups starting on the Everest Base Camp route right around the same time. One was this really sweet old couple from Singapore, both in like their late 60s, had recently retired, and they were just walking around the world, going all over. The other was a group of CrossFitters from Australia, and all just in dramatically better shape than me, super fit, and really excited about the physical challenge of it.
yeah,
And so we gave the same advice to both of them. And the older couple just walked and just held
yeah,
hands, and strolled, had this wonderful experience. And the CrossFitters early in the hike weren't satisfied with the challenge of it because they're in ridiculous shape.
yeah.
So they were, you know, challenging the guide to go faster, jogging instead of walking. And very quickly, all of them started feeling symptoms. And by the end of the trek, one of them had had to come down early. One had added extra time to rest in the car. And they get back, and I'm having, we always take our guests out for a farewell dinner afterwards just to recap, help them celebrate. And I'm sitting with this couple from Singapore. I'm like, this is the best example of like doing altitude right, just going at the comfortable pace, take a tea break when
Exactly.
you need it, and so it is doable. It's absolutely doable to do high altitude trekking safely. Give
Yeah,
yourself plenty of time, train where you can, and it's a very accessible, beautiful sport.
yeah. And I think one of the points you made earlier in that, which is important to me and for my clients, is your guides and your team appreciating the capabilities of the people and changing the schedule. You're not sort of saying we have to be this far every day and then we
Yeah,
can't fluctuate
yeah,
from that. It's more about the experience of the people on the trip and making sure they're getting the full enjoyment, because the other problem with going too quick is you're missing what's around you, right? There's so much more to see when you're on these treks besides just getting to the end point.
absolutely. And it's something with all of our treks, whether you're in Nepal or Patagonia or Kilimanjaro, we send large guide teams that are all
Yeah,
have certified assistant guides. So if you're on one of our trips to Everest Base Camp and someone in the group wants to go faster, someone else wants to stop and take 1,000 photos like I always do, then a guide will be with each group. So you're never alone on the trail. You
yeah,
always have someone who can help with any questions, can help get you to the next spot. And that way, everyone can go at a pace that's comfortable. Obviously, we push our guests to keep a safe pace as well,
sure.
but
Yeah,
comfortable and safe is very different for different hikers.
yeah,
And especially on Everest Base Camp, there's so many tea houses that it's easy. If you're tired at 2 p.m., stop and have a cup of tea. Take 20 minutes with an assistant guide to enjoy the views, and then keep going.
Exactly.
And there's no reason to rush it, and every reason to take your time.
Exactly. I agree. I agree. So one of the big questions I got from a lot of people about the trip is, what are the bathroom facilities like on the way up the hill?
Yeah, very common question. So
Yeah.
everywhere you'll stay has both drop toilets and Western toilets. Once you get beyond about day 4 or 5 going up, they stop having plumbed toilets and they start having like a reservoir. But you still have a
Yeah.
Western toilet. You'll just have like a hand basin to fill it and drain it.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, even in the busy season, I spent about 3 weeks in Namche Bazaar and then higher up during the busy season last year, just
Yeah.
working with guests as they went up and down. And even at the busiest point, the bathrooms get well used, but they're cleaned regularly too. And so it's
Okay.
not
Good.
it's not like elsewhere in the world where, putting up with a remarkably dirty bathroom is part of the adventure. You may
Yeah.
see those on the Everest Base Camp route, but not as common as elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. And that answers the question. See, when I tell people that, they don't trust me a lot of the times because they're used to traveling with me, and they know sometimes I'll play with the truth a little bit just to push the envelope. But hearing it from you, they'll respect it a bit more. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the food? I know obviously the diet is different, and we've all read that don't eat the meat on the trail, stick with the other types of things. So what's your comment on that?
The food is good. It's very similar the whole way through. You're right. Don't eat the meat. There's not stable refrigeration after you leave Lukla, which is where you'll start the trek.
Yeah.
So the tuna is always canned. That's fine. The tea houses all have like expansive menus. They'll be able to offer, basic pizzas and stir fries and curries, things like that. I always just get the dal bhat, which is like a lentil soup, rice dish
Yeah.
with and it's the staple. It's all you can eat at all of the tea houses. They'll just fill your plates until you make them stop, and it's
Yeah.
delicious. The secret to the Everest region and elsewhere in Nepal is all of the tea houses have their own local chili sauce. So while you're there, ask for like the chili oil, especially if you like spicy foods. They go from mild to really, really hot. And they'll tell you they're not going to like just slip you something too hot, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it definitely is a big part of why I love the region is you get a really unique curry. The ingredients are the same, but the flavor of those curries of those chili sauces is very different at each village. So it's great.
Yeah. Okay. And I read some people recommending that the food gets more expensive as you get up the trail, so that you're better to buy supplies and sort of carry them with you. But does that make sense, or is that just sort of a rumor?
No, things definitely get expensive as you go up. You'll start paying maybe $1.50 US for a bottle of water in Lukla, and that might be $4 or $5 by the time you get up
Okay.
to Gorakep, right outside base camp.
Yeah.
With our packages, we kind of take that into account. So we provide all of your meals, 3 meals a day, 3 hot drinks from start to finish. If
Okay.
you're if you're buying your own meals, booking your own accommodations, I would say stock up on snacks and trail food in Kathmandu before you go. You'll
Yeah.
find like Snickers bars and other trail food along the way, but it gets pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So
And
those types of things definitely just take with you.
and definitely our plan was, working with you. I didn't want people worrying about that component, so we were wrapping that all into the thing, so people were taken care of and not having to fret about that. That's for sure.
It's the easiest way to do it. You'll end up
Yeah.
um, just everything's fixed price on the trail as far as food and drinks. You're not going to have end up haggling for a plate of eggs, but
Yeah.
you will find that it's just much easier if it's settled by the tour agency.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's our plan. I mean, particularly on, bucket list adventures like this, you don't want something small to ruin it for everyone. So it's better
Mhm.
just to have it all organized by someone like yourself that's been there many times, and just make it, enjoy the experience. Don't worry about the logistics along the way.
Exactly. Keep it
Yeah.
simple so you're focusing on getting the pictures and enjoying the views, and all of the logistics is done.
Yeah. So how many times have you gone to base camp?
I've done the full trek once, and then I've gone and spent time in the Namche Bazaar, lower altitudes. I've spent weeks down there just meeting with guests and spending
Yeah.
up, going up and down.
Yeah. So what would you say for that trip? What's the highlight for you?
My favorite day of hiking was the second acclimatization day we did, which is in Dingbuche. We
Yep.
had just the perfect weather for watching Ama de Blanc. So we hiked a 5,000-meter peak called Nagarjun, which is there in the Dingbuche Valley, and had stunning views of Island Peak and Ama de Blanc. Perfect weather. It was some of the best hiking I've ever done.
Yeah.
The kind of peak of the trip, though, for me was when we hiked Kalapatar right after visiting base camp. So we did a sunrise
Okay.
hike and
Yes.
got a view of the sunrise coming up behind Everest. It had been a super cloudy morning. We'd gotten some rain the day before, but right as the sun hit that rim, the clouds broke and we got just 15
Wow.
minutes of the sunset and then didn't see the sun again for like 36 hours. But
Yeah.
it broke
Yeah.
for exactly as long as we needed it. And so that was the best view of Everest, probably the best view along the trek for me.
Yeah. And is that one of the optional hikes after on the way back? Was that one of the optional ones?
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
we do on our itinerary is you'll get to Gorik and then go up to base camp as a day hike.
Yeah.
Come back to Gorik and depending on how people feel, you can either climb Kalapatar as a evening hike to watch the sunset on the face of Everest. Most people, frankly, don't have gas in the tank at that point.
Yeah.
Most people are starting to feel the altitude then. They're tired from like 8 days of tough hiking, so they just
Yeah.
go to bed. So instead, we'll do a sunrise hike as an option as well, where you'll leave the tea house at about 4 a.m., get up to either the ridge line on Kalapatar or the summit. The view's fantastic from either option, and watch the sunrise. Then after that, you'll come back to Gorik, have a more substantial breakfast, then start coming back down.
Yeah. Yeah. Then head back. Okay. And of course, everyone. I'm just going through and remember all the comments people gave you. One of the other ones people asked is about the flight from Kathmandu to Luka, and that's quite eventful.
It's exciting. Yeah, it's an exciting flight. I've done it 4 or 5 times. It does get bumpy. It's a small plane, and the Lukla airport, taking off or landing there is always exciting. Um,
Yeah.
my personal thought on it is if you've driven on the roads in Nepal, they're probably actually more dangerous than the flights. The flights are so famous. The
Yeah.
roads in Nepal are really exciting. Like people weaving in and out, pedestrians weaving in and out, tractors sharing the roads with motorcycles. And so, having done the drive, the last few seasons, they've moved the flights from Kathmandu to a small airport in a town called Ramachop. They've been
Hmm.
redoing the surface of the Kathmandu landing strips. So
Okay.
that town is about a 5 hour bus ride from Kathmandu. So the airlines coordinate private vans to take passengers there.
Yeah.
It hasn't been every flight the last season, but some people are still getting, if their flights are later in the day, getting shifted to Ramachop. That drive, I would say, is significantly more hair raising than the actual flight. It's just so the flight's fun. I really enjoy it. Most of our guests enjoy it once it's done and are a
Yeah.
little nervous going into it.
Well, watch the videos, the plane almost landing uphill on the side of a mountain, right?
Yes, yes. And then it has like just this small space to actually slow down and not run into the mountain. It's
Yeah.
an exciting airstrip for sure.
But we should point out to everyone that's watching that very safe. That
Yes.
the record of there's no records are very good there. So
Yeah. No, it is
yeah.
a safe, like, it has a reputation because it's had some accidents, but overall, very safe. Very few incidents. They have tens of thousands of people go through it every year.
Yeah.
It is a safe, if it maybe a little bit bumpy landing.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Part of the fun, part of the experience.
Absolutely part of the adventure of going to the Everest region, and not
Yeah.
really optional. Unless you want to trek an extra 3 days, you're flying into Luca.
Yeah. We're flying. We're flying when we go in October.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what's your plans for next fall? Are you there? Are you in Africa, South America? Where are you heading to?
So the current plan is that I will be probably in Tanzania in August. We
Okay.
have a
Yeah.
university group that comes right at the start of September.
Yeah.
So I'll be in Moshi working with them for their Kilimanjaro climb. And then after that, I'll either come back for the end of September in the US and go to do mid-October through the end of the season in Nepal, or maybe go
Okay.
direct Tanzania mid-September and do September to late October in Nepal. We always
Okay.
have myself or one of my coworkers there.
Yeah.
The team is brilliant, but many hands make light work. So we're just there to kind of help keep logistics smooth, work with guests, and just keep that same high quality customer service.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. So you'll probably be there at the same time we are then.
Yeah, very good chance.
Yeah. And so you said Tanzania because we've got a group going to Africa, Kenya in September as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be too far. It won't be too far away.
Yeah, we were actually Kenya is one destination we're looking to expand to. So
Yeah.
we had kind of plans to do that this year. Unsurprisingly, those plans have been pushed back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a
Exactly.
great destination. Safaris
Yeah.
there, awesome. Mount Kenya is high on my list of things I need to climb.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So listen, is there anything else you want to talk about the base camp trek? Anything, any good stories you want to relay for us, or warnings to give us, or mistakes people have made?
The biggest thing is training for it. So the trek it is hiking. You're walking, you can go at a
Yeah.
very reserved pace, so it's accessible. That being said, training is very important. Endurance training, strength training, all of it will just help you enjoy the trek more. So
Yeah.
when I was doing the trip the first time, I get to Namche Bazaar, and one of our groups was coming down, and so they're resting at the same tea house. And there's a woman in that group who was a school teacher and just looked destroyed, so tired. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I trained for this. What am I getting into? Like, it's my first time going through there. And I asked
Yeah.
her, how was it? And she says, it's beautiful, but it was so hard. And I'm like, okay, what did you do to train for it? Because I'm starting to second guess my training. And she's like,
Yeah.
okay, I used the Stairmaster, but I hated it. So I used it for 5 minutes and I was done. I'm like, okay, so maybe that's why it was harder.
Yeah.
So our advice is always come in the best shape you can be. That'll be different for everyone, but you'll
Yeah.
be more confident and you'll enjoy the trek more if you take the time to do some training. We have a guide on our website that we've gone through
Yeah.
different training options. If you have hiking options near your home, or if you just have a gym, a way to kind of get physically ready for it, and and then just go slowly. Really
Yeah.
enjoy the. If you're running out of breath, if you can't have a conversation while you're hiking, you might be going too fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you certainly don't have to be a marathon runner and things like this to do this. You just need to be in good physical condition, prepared for it. I mean, I've found a lot of the treks that we've done that, a lot of the trek is more mental, right? It's your mental preparedness for it as opposed to your physical, just being, aware of what you're doing and controlling, as you say, taking your time and just knowing that, there's tens of thousands of people do this trek every year and they all finish it. So there's nothing to prevent you from doing the same thing.
Absolutely. That attitude is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, anything else you wanted to pass on? As I say, we're going to talk offline at later dates around some of these other locations, and I'm super keen to continue to plan for October and seeing you in Nepal.
Yeah, it's the only other thing I would say is just that of all the places I've trekked around the world, Nepal is my favorite. The scale of the mountains there is just unbelievable, and the base camp trek highlights that as well as anywhere in the country. You'll be passing you'll hike and then you'll hike up literally into the cloud line. If it's like at all overcast, you hike up enough that you're hiking into the cloud line, and then the next day you do that again, and the next day you do that again, and you're just seeing these unbelievably massive mountains it feels like you're so close to them. It's just an absolutely incredible experience. The Nepalese are such welcoming people. The whole tea house experience on the trail is quintessential, like Nepal trekking. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think there's one other point I want to raise when we talked about, we had to cancel, the current one, but we actually, what's the date now? I think we'd just be coming back from it. But we talked about, is October a good time to go? And so maybe if you want to talk about, October as an option.
October is great. So the rainy season in Nepal ends in early September, and from there it gets warmer and sunnier all the way through October. So mid-October to the end of the month is some of the absolute best trekking conditions in Nepal.
Great.
You have beautiful weather, clear. Your chance of delays or any issues with Lukla is very low, and just stunning views. So yeah, October's great.
Okay, that's good. I think it's good for people to know that because that's always a question, right? What time of year is
Yeah.
the best to go? And you've switched from April now to October. Does that matter? And I was glad when we talked about it that you brought that up. And it was actually October is a very good time to go. I think even for the people that are trying to summit, isn't that one of the periods where the people trying to summit are heading up?
Yeah. Yeah, so summiting Everest is usually done in the spring and late May, but you'll well have in October summit groups going for other 6 and 7,000 meter peaks in Nepal.
Okay,
So it is definitely a climbing period as well. Some
good.
people
Yeah.
will tie in an Everest Base Camp trek with like a summit on Island Peak or Mara Peak, others that are more accessible climbs in the region, and those
Yeah.
groups will be going all throughout October.
Okay, good. Good. Well, listen, Rob, I'm gonna turn off the recording here in a second so you and I can chat. But I definitely want to thank you for taking the time to talk about the trip with everyone here and talk about your company. And I'm glad that you're safe in Salt Lake City and then things are going well there too. Really appreciate it, and it's got me excited again now.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for setting this up, and I'm so glad that you and your family are doing well as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.